All right, so again, we're talking about polynomials. We're going to start with talking about writing them in standard form, how to determine the degree, and then we'll get into multiplying polynomials and just a little bit further. But none of this is anything that you haven't ever seen before. So first of all, to find the degree of a polynomial, remember a polynomial is just a set of terms. It could be one term, it could be 10 terms, okay? It's just a polynomial is the specific name for any group of terms. But to find the degree of a polynomial, it is determined by the highest degree, which is the exponent of any single term. Okay, so if you have 5 terms and one of them has an exponent of 6, then the degree is going to be 6 if that's the highest one. If the highest term has an exponent of 10, then the degree would be 10. So you're going to be asked to name the degree. And then you're also going to be asked to write it in standard form. And a polynomial in standard form starts with the highest degree and then goes in descending order. So if you start with an x to the 5th, then you would write x to the 4th, then x to the 3rd, x squared, x to the 1st, and your constant terms. Pretty good there? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to practice by just writing each polynomial in standard form and then stating its degree. Sometimes you will have terms to combine, sometimes you will not. You will just need to rearrange them. When we have our quiz next Tuesday, these are going to be like the first couple of questions on that quiz. It's going to ask you to write it in standard form and state the degree. So what I would recommend doing is before you get started, I would always look to see, do we have any terms that we can combine, any like terms, meaning same variables with the same exponents. So starting with number 1, I've got 4x minus 9x to the 5th plus 2. Do I have any like terms there? Anything that I can combine together? No. Okay. And what's the highest degree? Which term has the highest degree? X to the 5th. So that 9x to the 5th needs to be written first. What kind of 9x to the 5th is it? Negative. So when we write it, we want to make sure we write it as a negative. So we'll write the negative 9x to the 5th first. And then again, I would go down in descending order. So if I had an x to the 4th, that would come next, but I don't have one of those. Then an x to the 3rd, then an x squared, and then the only other x I have is the 4x. What kind of 4x is that? Positive, so we're going to put plus 4x. And then our constant term, that 2, the one that does not have a variable with it, is going to go last. So that's what my standard form is going to look like, negative 9x to the 5th plus 4x plus 2. So that's the first part. Second part is to state the degree. Again, the degree is the highest exponent. So what would the degree be? 5. Okay, so it's the degree of 5. And you can just write 5 if you want to, but I'm writing degree so you know what I'm talking about there. And that's all I'm asking you to do for this. Write it in standard form and then state the degree. So go ahead and do 2 and 3 for me, please. Also, if there are any terms that are similar or like terms, then you can combine them together as you're writing it in standard form. So with number 2, I have 3 minus x squared. What should come first? The x squared, and what kind of x squared is it? Negative, so we're going to write a negative x squared. And then what do we write? Thank you. That is the standard form, and what is my degree? 2. Okay, not hard stuff. Not really even much to think about, right? With number 3, I have several terms here. I have a 3x squared minus 8 plus 14x squared minus 20x to the 8th plus x. What is the highest degree term? So that's going to go first. But in this one, I actually have some like terms that I need to combine, right? And what comes next would be the next highest exponent, which is just the x squareds, so I need to combine those together. That is a positive 3x squared and a positive 14x squared, which combined would give me a positive. And then I have a single x, and then that minus 8. So that is how my standard form should look. And then again, what's the degree here? 8. Okay. Everybody good? Then we are going to take and add and subtract some polynomials together. Adding is not hard. It's simply combining your like terms, writing it in standard form. The only issue people have is when we subtract, they forget to distribute the negative. And also, especially once we start talking about multiplying these polynomials, people don't pay attention to what's in between the parentheses, and they just say 2 parentheses and start multiplying everything. So you have to be very careful when you're looking at your questions. And I say this, and I say it every year, but on the quiz next week, somebody is going to multiply when they're supposed to add, or they're going to multiply when they're supposed to subtract, because they're just not paying attention to what is in between those parentheses. So we are going to start with 5x squared minus 2x plus 3, and we are going to add 3x to the third minus 4x squared plus 7. Again, adding isn't really anything other than combining your like terms and writing it in standard form. But just remember, there is always what kind of number in front of that parenthesis if it's not written? A 1. And just in the same as the second parenthesis, right? There's a 1 in front of that one. So if you want to think about it as distributing the 1, try that one more time. The 1 goes to everything inside the parenthesis, which does not change it. And then we are also distributing over here in the second parenthesis, we're going to distribute that positive 1, which again does not change anything. Do I have to rewrite it like this without the parentheses if it's addition? Not really, okay. But if you don't get in the habit of that, then you may forget when we subtract to distribute the negatives to the second parenthesis. Then what we want to do is exactly what we were doing before. Write it in standard form. Combine any like terms that we may have. So pick your highest degree term. Write that one first. Go in descending order from there. So let's see, I've got my highest degree is a positive 3x to the third. That is the only x to the third, so I'm going to write that first. Then I have a positive 5x squared and a negative 4x squared, which is going to give me a positive 1x squared. Then I have a negative 2x, and that's the only x that I have, so I'm going to bring that down. And then I have a positive 3 and a positive 7, which combine to give me a positive 10. And so that's how I would leave my answer. You don't have to state the degree for these. You just need to combine them and put them in standard form. So if you have not already, I know you already did it. Go ahead and do 5.
Will there be any cases where we use like negative 1 instead of positive 1?
Not in the first parenthesis generally, unless there's something out there. But if I put a minus sign in between instead of a plus, we'll have to use a negative there. So again, if you have not already, go ahead and do 5. We are adding these because there is a plus sign in between the 2 parentheses. That's telling me what to do. So again, I like to write it without my parentheses so that those parentheses don't restrict what I'm looking at. Some people are visual people and those parentheses kind of block everything. You don't have to if you can do it without. Okay, but again, I'm distributing that positive 1 here. Maybe. Come on. And then we just write this in standard form, combining any like terms. What's the highest degree term here? X to the 5th. So that's going to come first, and there is only one of those. So let's see. That negative 2x to the 5th is going to be written first. I do not have an x to the 4th, but I do have an x to the 3rd, and that is the only one of those. So I will bring that down. And then I have a positive 3x squared, and I have a negative 1x squared, which is going to give me a positive 2x squared. I have a positive 5x and a positive 5x, which is going to give me a positive 10x. And then lastly is that constant term that I don't have anything else to combine with it. And so my answer would be that long polynomial, negative 2x to the 5th plus 6x to the 3rd minus 2x squared plus 10x minus 9. All right, go ahead and write down 6. We'll do this one together, and then I got one more for you. Easy stuff today. So this time, if you notice, what's in between my parentheses? A minus. So we are subtracting these. And this one, it does matter a little bit with the second polynomial. So what I like to do is, again, just think about my 1 that's in front of each parenthesis. And I distribute. Now in that front parenthesis, nothing is going to change because there's a positive 1 in front of it. But it's when we get to that second parenthesis that we do need to be very careful, because what kind of 1 are we going to distribute this time? A negative, yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. That's going to make that a negative x squared, a negative 5x, and then make that a negative 9, which basically is just changes the sign of everything in that second parenthesis. And then we do exactly what we've been doing, combine like terms and write it in standard form. What's the highest degree here? X to the 3rd, okay. That is the only one. Then I have a single negative x squared, so that's going to come down. Then I have a negative 2x and a negative 5x, which is going to give me negative 7x. And then a positive 1 and a negative 9, which is going to give me negative 8. You all look so thrilled. Try that last one, number 7. So once again, put my little ones in front, and you do not have to do it like I do. If you can just write it with distributing your negative, however you choose to do it. Just don't make mistakes and forget negatives. That's going to make that a -2. That's going to make that a positive x to the third. And that's going to make that a -3x. So then I combine, starting with my highest degree, which is an x to the third. Then I have a -7x squared. I have a -1x and a -3x, which is going to give me a -4x. And then I have a +5 and a -2, which is going to give me a +3. Anybody have any questions? Not hard stuff, right? We're good? Okay.